me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Well, our heroes are really up in the air this time. Searching for mooseberries, a secret ingredient for their rocket fuel formula, they wound up on board a plane piloted by Boris Badenov. His partner, Natasha, fastened them into their seats with one-way belts and then bailed out. In the pilot's compartment, Boris gleefully smashed all the instruments, threw out the steering wheel, and prepared to follow Natasha.
I hate to leave a place that holds such pleasant memories.
But at that moment, the damaged radio crackled and a voice said,
Calling Boris Badenov, this is Central Control. You reading me?
Yes, fearless leader.
Plans are changed. Moose must finish finding formula. Do not, repeat, do not kill Moose.
Make up your mind.
What was that?
I said yes, fearless leader.
And Boris dashed back into the cabin just as all three engines conked out.
Hey, Captain, give us a hand here.
Well, something seems to be the trouble.
Get us out of these belts. They're stuck.
Of course.
How come the engine stopped?
Oh, because we're going to land.
Well, how come we're landing?
Because the engine stopped, you nice little chap.
We better jump for it.
Right, Rocky, let's go!
Wait!
No, Bullwinkle, I can glide down, but you need a parachute.
I knew I was forgetting something.
Moose has got to be saved. Here, take mine.
Wouldn't think of it.
Take it. I insist.
Well, thanks.
Come on, Bullwinkle.
You're sure you don't need it?
No, we got lots of others that I just threw overboard. Oh, Boris, why didn't you become violinist like Mama wanted?
And while our heroes floated earthward, the plane bearing Boris sank lower and lower. And finally came to rest on a tall tree. The tree was already occupied.
Oh, there you are, darling. I thought you'd never get here.
Me too.
Hello up there. You all right, Ace?
Certainly, we always land this way. It saves wear and tear on the wheels.
A short time later, after our boys had rescued the two spies from their precarious perch,
Ace, I think you and Miss Callahan better head back for town while Bullwinkle and I push on to...
To where?
Never mind. He's just a little too curious to suit me, Bullwinkle.
Curious? He's downright odd.
Quickly, Natasha, we must follow them.
and the two spies began trailing our boys through the woods.
Let's see now. As I remember, Mooseberry Island is right this way. Yup, there it is.
But look!
Well, this was a fine how have you been. Mooseberry Island was surrounded by barbed wire and warning signs.
Keep out Mooseberry Blight. Quarantine.
Gee, the whole island's off limits.
Well, there must be one healthy bush on that island. But how do we get to it?
Well, a little barbed wire isn't going to stop Bullwinkle J. Moose. I got a scheme.
Quickly, Bullwinkle outlined his plan. He would enter the water above the island, swim with the current till he reached it, find a healthy bush, and then swim back below the island.
Now you're sure it'll work, Bullwinkle.
Of course it will. I've thought of every little thing. Except one.
What's that?
I can't swim!
And Bullwinkle was carried off by the swift current. Unfortunately, there was another thing that he hadn't figured on. Right below Mooseberry Island was deadly, thundering falls. And before Rocky could move, Bullwinkle was swept over the edge. Be with us next time for Bullwinkle's Water Follies or Antlers Away.
And now it's time for...
Time for the dancing fool, Bullwinkle!
Again? And now for one of our special fairy tales.
Yeah.
Did you ever know a boy who got everything he wanted? Well, that was Jack. In fact, Jack was given so many toys by his mother that he became spoiled, and his mother became very, very poor. For you see, she used all of her money to buy toys for Jack until she was left with only one worldly possession, a cow. Except Jack, of course. Aside from being very, very poor, they were continually being frightened by loud thums.
Thumb!
And sometimes fees.
Fee!
Which would come out of the sky like thunder. This was very noisy, to say the least. But Jack's mother decided first things first and sent Jack to the village to sell the cow so they'd have money enough for food. Jack was very inexperienced in the world of commerce, so what did he do? What any young boy would do. He sold the cow for 6 lima beans.
Jack, you've never heard such fumming and things since you've been gone. I thought the sky would crash in on our heads. How much did you get for the cow, son?
6 lima beans, Mother.
6 lima beans? Why, Jack, you know I don't like lima beans.
But the man said they were magic beans.
Off to bed, Jack, not another word.
So Jack went to bed without any supper. The next morning, Jack was awakened by a huge beanstalk growing right outside his window. Jack thought to himself, beanstalks this big are for climbing. And so he did. He climbed, and then he climbed some more. Finally, he reached the top. He didn't know that he was in the land of Thumb. Or is it Fee? Jack started out in search of food, and soon he came to a huge castle. He crossed the huge drawbridge and entered the huge gate. Everything inside the castle was huge, too.
My, this room is big enough for a...
Giant? This is the castle of the Giant of Thumb. Or is it Fee? He's a mean, evil giant with a nasty disposition, and he stole from your father, let's see, 1 hen, golden egg type, 2 bags of gold, 14 carat, 1 harp, singing variety. You must return them to your mother, who was the rightful owner. But remember, the giant has a keen sense of smell. If he smells a stranger, he will say, fee, fi, fo, fum. And then you must run for your life, because that means he's discovered you.
But how do you know all this?
Because I am your fairy godmouse.
Just then there was a terrible thumping noise like huge flat footsteps. Jack hid behind the door just as the giant entered. He was huge.
Wife, bring me my hen.
And while Jack watched in amazement, the hen laid an egg made of solid gold.
Wait a minute. Fee, fi, fo, fop. I smell... No, that's not right. Fee, fi, fo...
Fum!
That's it! Fum! Fee, fo, fi, fum! But now I don't smell anything.
So Jack returned the hen to his mother, and she seemed so delighted that the next day Jack returned to the castle.
Wife, bring me my bag of gold.
It was more gold than Jack knew there was in the world.
Wait a minute. Fi, fo, fum, fee.
No, dear, it's fee-fi-fo-fum.
That's what I said. Fee, fi, fum, fo.
Fum, stupid! Fee-fi-fo-fum!
And as the giant and his wife argued, Jack slipped out of the door and was gone. He gave the gold to his mother. She seemed so delighted that the next day he was back in his hiding place.
Wife, bring me my singing harp. 1, 2.
Oh, when the saints go marching in, when the saints go marching in.
Wait a minute. Fee, fi, fo.
Fum! And for goodness sakes, hurry, I'm being stolen.
Ooh, I'll give you such a fum.
Oh, when the saints go marching in, when the saints go marching in, how I want to be in the number when the saints go marching in.
You know, Jack didn't really have to chop down the beanstalk. For you see, the giant was so afraid of heights that when he looked over the edge, he was so frightened that from that day on, never again was heard a fum or even a feeble fee. Only foop or tweep. And Jack changed too, for he had learned that there was as much fun in giving as in receiving, and so everybody lived happily ever after, Jack and his mother and the cow.
And the fairy godmouse.
me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Well, disaster has dogged the footsteps of our heroes in their search for mooseberries, the missing ingredient for their rocket fuel. First of all, they found that the one mooseberry bush was strictly off limits due to the mooseberry blight. And then finally, Bullwinkle's clever plan to make a swimming raid on the island went slightly awry when he neglected just one little detail.
I can't swim!
A moment later, Bullwinkle had disappeared over thundering falls.
Bullwinkle!
As Rocky raced toward the falls, those sly spies, Boris and Natasha, watched from a distance.
Is Moose kaput, darling?
No. Look there. He's caught in bush.
Not for long. Do we try to save him or let him go?
Which was last orders from headquarters?
You took message, darling.
But they sent so many. Quickly, get me central control.
But while Boris and Natasha tried to get their orders on whether or not to go to Bullwinkle's aid, the intrepid squirrel was already high in a tree next to the falls, carrying a long rope which he tied to a tree limb.
Bullwinkle, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I'm up in this tree.
You sure picked a fine time for sightseeing.
No, wait. I'm going to glide down with a rope.
Okay.
And the plucky squirrel, trailing the rope behind him, launched himself into space. Down he zoomed across the face of Thundering Falls and right to Bullwinkle.
Nice flying rock.
But at that instant, the bush tore loose.
Hang on, Bullwinkle.
And with great exertion of mighty moose muscle, Bullwinkle did hang on, as he, Rocky, and the bush swung back to the safety of the shore.
Made it. Were you scared, Bullwinkle?
Shucks, no. I was as cute as a cucumber, Rocky.
Bullwinkle, I'm over here. That's the bush you're talking to.
Imagine me not knowing my best friend from a mooseberry bush.
Bullwinkle? Say that again.
All right.
No, before that. You said this was a...
Just a mooseberry. Mooseberry!
Bullwinkle, you did it! You found the last available mooseberry bush in the country.
Just my keen eyeballs, I guess.
Meanwhile, the two spies had just contacted their superiors overseas.
I tell you, I sent whole tank full of rocket fuel by submarine to main seaport.
Well, now it's missing.
The tank or the rocket fuel?
The seaport.
Oh, so now I kill moose, right?
No, you idiot. Get the formula and return home. We got special reception planned for you.
Okay, over and out.
Now we gotta get this bush back to Washington, Bullwinkle.
Yeah, before it catches the mooseberry blight.
But at last we got the secret ingredient.
Secret ingredient?
Come on, Rocky, let's start hiking.
Hold on there, gentlemen.
Who are you?
Special Agent, FPI.
You mean FBI?
No, FPI, Federal Plant Inspector. You got any peaches, pears, pineapples, passion fruit, papayas, or mooseberries?
Well, it just so happens.
Aha, a mooseberry bush. And, it's crawling with mooseberry blight.
It is?
This plant must be sprayed right away, quick.
Now, wait a minute, you can't...
There's no charge.
Oh, that's all right then.
So the inspector sprayed and sprayed until not a thing could be seen. And when the cloud cleared away, both the bush and the inspector were gone.
Boy, that's what I call a powerful spray.
Well, what has happened to our mooseberry bush? And does this mean failure to our friends?
Heck no! We're the heroes.
Don't miss our next episode, The Inspector Detectors, or A Kick in the Plants.
And now, here to tell you everything about anything is Mr. Know-It-All.
Hello, knowledge thirsties. Today's subject is how to sell vacuum cleaners and clean up. Now, the two prime requisites in selling vacuums are the customer and the customee. The customer, or victim, usually lives in a house like this one. The customee, or salesman, has to get in the house. Rule number 1, always get your foot in the customer's door. Good morning, customer. Would you be interested in... Dutch door, huh? Rule number 2, find a door one can put one's foot in. Good morning, customer. Mind if I put my foot in your... Rule number 3, forget rule number 1. At this point, also forget about getting in the door and find another way of getting in, such as a window. That'll be a open window.
Look at mess you made.
Oh, sure, customer. I shall rectify that in a jiffy.
Hey, what you doing?
It's an extra feature. It not only cleans up, it dirties up. Wait a second, I shall put it in reverse and suck up everything in sight.
Boy, you wasn't kidding. You picked up whole room. Congratulations. You begged the customer.
Not to mention the customee.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. See? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Wrong hat.
And now it's time to meet Mr. Peabody.
Hello, Peabody here. I believe that every dog should have a boy. That's why I adopted Sherman.
Shall I set the Wayback Controls, Mr. Peabody?
Yes, Sherman, you may set the Wayback Machine for the year 1875.
And the place?
Dodge City. Specifically, the Marshal's office. For today, we visit that legendary lawman, Wyatt Earp. In no time at all, Sherman and I were standing before Marshal Earp. His actions rather surprised us.
You the fellas with the tiddlywink set? Set it right down there on the table till I finish my sword fighting. On guard there, you varmint.
Excuse us, Marshal, but you're mistaking us for someone else.
You didn't bring no tiddlywinks?
I'm afraid not.
Well, then you must have brought a deck of cards.
No, sir, we didn't bring any cards either.
Obviously, you're quite busy, Marshal, but could you take a moment to explain why you're...
Why I'm fencing and going in for tiddlywinks and card games?
Precisely.
Well, I gotta get ready to capture Ace's Wild, the worst doggone bank robbery in Kansas.
You mean you're gonna fight him with a sword?
I'll fight him, challenge him at a game of tiddlywinks, or even go fish. But I'm gonna beat him and bring him in.
Has the possibility occurred to you that he may wish to fight you with a gun?
Well, if he does, then old Wyatt's going to Boot Hill.
Don't you have a gun?
I got part of one. You see, after every gunfight, I always had a habit of carving a notch on my gun handle. I had so many fights I don't have a handle left. See? Every time I draw, I don't have nothing to grab on to.
Why not buy another gun? Or at least a handle?
Ain't none around. Them things are scarce out here. You fellas ain't got a gun you can lend me, have you?
I'm afraid not.
Well, if an aces don't want to play go fish, I guess I'm a goner.
Suddenly, the door opened.
Marshal, come quick. It's Ace's Wild. He just left the bank.
Did he make a withdrawal or a deposit?
A withdrawal. Took every darn cent there was.
Well, this calls for a showdown. Follow me.
And follow him we did. That is, until he misjudged his footing and...
Please.
He's out cold, Mr. Peabody.
It's just as well, Sherman.
Yeah, but who's gonna fight Ace's Wild?
Belly up to the bar, boys. The drinks is on me.
Well, you better vamoose pronto. Marshal Earp's sure shooting going to come looking for you.
You know what I got for him? A bullet with his name on it.
Look out, Aces. Sounds like the marshals are coming.
Come on in, Marshal. And come on in a-fightin'.
I assume you're Ace's Wild?
I be he. Who be ye?
I be Peabody. This is Sherman.
Hi, Mr. Wild.
Where's the Marshal?
He's indisposed. So I've come to take you in.
That's downright funny, that is. Why, I'm the best shot in the West.
I doubt that.
Oh, you do you? Well, get a load of this.
Adequate, but hardly extraordinary.
I suppose you could do the same.
Yes, and without the use of firearms. Hold a glass, please.
How's this?
Fine. So saying, I went to the piano, selected E above high C, and...
Well, I'll be dogged. All right, Mr. Smarty. Let's see you outdraw me. On the count of three, grab your gun.
But you don't have a gun, Mr. Peabody.
I don't need one, Sherman. Now, if you'll be so kind as to hand me that tray. Good boy. Now stand aside.
You ready yet?
I will be, as soon as you move directly beneath that chandelier.
What for I gotta stand there?
You will see.
Well, I guess it don't matter where I stand. What matters is where you fall. 1, 2, 3.
You did it, Mr. Peabody! You beat him!
Of course.
Without firing a shot!
Naturally. And so, after escorting Aces to a jail cell, we said goodbye to Marshal Earp.
Thanks again, Mr. Peabody. You too, Sherman. Adios!
Golly, it sure is puzzling.
What is Sherman?
Well, how Wyatt Earp got the reputation for being the fastest draw in the West.
Oh, not so puzzling. Wyatt Earp was also an artist, you see, and he really did draw faster than anyone.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
But that trick never worked.
This time for sure. Presto! Well, I'm getting close.
And now it's time for another special feature.
Well, sir, our heroes are still in a slump in their efforts to bring back a mooseberry bush. For in our last episode, the wily Boris disguised himself as a plant inspector and sprayed the last mooseberry bush in the country. When the cloud of spray was gone, so was the inspector and so was the bush.
Boy, that's what I call a powerful spray. Didn't leave leaf nor whisker of either of them.
Well, there goes our last chance of getting a mooseberry bush back to Washington.
You mean...
Yeah, we failed. What's that?
Oh, it's just some Indians gone by in a canoe.
But if that canoe had been closer, the boys would have seen that it didn't hold Indians at all, but Boris and Natasha, and between them, the mooseberry bush. But Rocky and Bullwinkle were too concerned with how to get back to Washington.
Can't fly back. Our plane's crashed.
Check.
Can't walk back. Takes too long.
Check.
Can't go by boat. Haven't got a boat.
Check. Wait a minute. Sure, we got a boat.
We have?
Yeah, right up in that fir tree.
Oh, sure, Rocky. Poor kid's been in the woods too long. He's fur crazy.
No, look.
Rocky, that's our wrecked aeroplane.
Not for long. Come on.
And so a short time later...
You see, Natasha? It's like taking candy from baby.
You know, darling, I have funny feeling we're being followed.
Followed? Who could follow us? We stole only canoe on the river. It's just
Sure enough, they were being followed. Rocky and Bullwinkle had turned their smashed aeroplane into a boat, and the plane's propellers made excellent double-bladed paddles.
They're gaining on us.
Like taking candy from baby, huh?
You ever tried to take candy from baby? It's pretty hard.
But Rocky and Bullwinkle, with no telescope, didn't know that they were so close to their goal. They'd have been even more dejected had they known what was coming, for just around the next bend in the river, Boris was planning a rather unpleasant surprise.
There, we should get rid of those two idiots.
But your last instructions say do not kill moose.
Who's killing moose? I'm just chopping down tree. It's my fault he happens to be underneath.
Shh, here they come.
And Boris started the huge tree on its way down.
You aren't even going to holler timber?
Of course I am. Listen.
Hokey smoke, Bullwinkle. Look.
The enormous tree hurtled down at our heroes. But unfortunately for Boris, it was just a little too big. It fell all the way across the river and hit a cliff on the other side. But the force of its falling snapped it in two, and half the tree drove through the bottom of Rocky's makeshift canoe.
We're leaking, Rocky. How are we going to get rid of that thing?
We're not, Bullwinkle. That's a mast.
With pine cones on it?
Sure. The wind blowing through the tree makes it act like a big sail.
Well, I'll be a moose.
You are a moose.
Yeah, I wanted something easy.
We'll be in Washington in no time.
Yup, if we don't sink first.
So with Rocky in the crow's nest and Bullwinkle at the tiller, the strange craft sped down the river.
Natasha, this requires quick thinking and positive action.
What we're going to do?
Run like rabbits. Come on.
And a moment later, Boris's canoe started downriver with a furious burst of speed.
Faster, Natasha, faster. Stroke, stroke, stroke.
And so began the strangest boat race ever held, the cross-country canoe contest from Minnesota to Washington, D.C. Will our boys catch up with the spies before their sort of boat sort of sinks? Don't miss our next episode, Canoes Who, or Look Before You Leak.
poem is called My Shadow. Okay, Rock. Thank you. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He stays so close behind me, he's a coward, you can see. I'd think shame to stick to Nursey like... All right, wise guy, put him up, put him up. Anytime a dang busted shadow gets flipped with me... Woo! Okay, you've been asking for it. Well, I still got my secret weapon. Okay, Rocky, turn off the light. Oh, fiddle faddle.